Imagine a day, exactly 66 million years ago. The sun rises over a world that feels eternal, a world of towering conifers, humid swamps, and giants that rule the earth. But in the silence of the cosmos, a rock the size of a city is hurtling toward us. It travels at 45,000 miles per hour. When it strikes the Yucatan Peninsula, the energy released is billions of times greater than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. The sky turns to fire, then to darkness, and in a geological blink, the reign of the most successful animals in Earth's history is brought to a sudden, violent halt. It is a story of catastrophic loss, but also of incredible endurance. Hello everyone, Alex here. Welcome to Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs, a definitive look at the creatures that captured our imagination and dominated our planet for over 160 million years. In this comprehensive audiobook, we will strip away the Hollywood myths and travel back to the beginning, to the Triassic period, when the first small, opportunistic dinosaurs emerged to challenge the world. We will journey through the Jurassic boom, witness the Cretaceous explosion of diversity, and uncover the secrets of their biology, from their feathers to their family lives. Finally, we will stand at the edge of the apocalypse and discover why only one lineage of these magnificent beasts survived to fly among us today. If you are ready to walk with giants, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We have a lot of ground to cover, and you won't want to miss a single step of this journey through deep time. Before we step into the time machine, I want to ask a question. What is your favorite dinosaur, and why? Is it the terrifying Tyrannosaurus Rex or the armored Ankylosaurus? Let us know in the comments below. Now, let's begin our story in the ashes of the past. The story does not begin with giants. It begins in the aftermath of the greatest disaster the Earth had ever seen. 252 million years ago, the Permian extinction wiped out nearly 90% of all life on the planet. The world was a hot, empty wasteland, a single supercontinent known as Pangaea, surrounded by a global ocean. Into this devastated world the survivors crawled. They were not dinosaurs yet, but the ancestors of the archosaurs, the ruling reptiles. In the shadow of these early rulers, in the dry deserts of what is now South America, the first dinosaurs evolved. They were small, unassuming creatures, often no larger than a medium-sized dog. Picture an animal like Eoraptor, a nimble bipedal hunter with hollow bones and a sprinter's gait. At this stage, they were underdogs, competing for food and space against massive reptiles like Dicynodonts and Rawasuchians that looked like monstrous crocodiles walking on land. But these early dinosaurs had a secret weapon. While their competitors were sprawling with their legs stuck out to the side like a lizard, dinosaurs stood upright. Their legs were tucked directly under their bodies. This simple anatomical shift changed everything. It allowed for continuous breathing, efficient movement, and the ability to run for longer distances without tiring. In the harsh, unpredictable Triassic climate, efficiency was survival. While the world was dominated by the heavy, lumbering giants of the past, the dinosaurs were experimenting. Some grew larger, like Plateosaurus, a massive herbivore that used its clawed hands to grasp vegetation. Others remained small, agile predators. They were adaptable, capable of surviving in environments where other animals starved. The Triassic was a testing ground, a crucible where the blueprint for the dinosaur empire was forged. They were the dark horses of the ancient world, waiting for their moment to take the stage. That moment came 201 million years ago. The Triassic-Jurassic extinction event was a sudden, catastrophic turnover of life. Massive volcanic eruptions in Pangaea split the supercontinent apart, spewing lava and greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. The climate swung wildly, killing off the large, sluggish archosaurs that had kept the dinosaurs in check. The door was thrown open, and the dinosaurs were the only ones ready to walk through it. With the dawn of the Jurassic period, the dinosaurs inherited the Earth. The climate shifted, becoming warmer and wetter, turning vast deserts into lush green prairies and dense forests. Pangaea was breaking apart, creating new coastlines and shallow seas that nurtured life. In this new world, dinosaurs were no longer just surviving. They were thriving, and they began to grow to sizes that defied imagination. This was the golden age of the sauropods. We often think of Brachiosaurus or Diplodocus, but they were just part of a massive family tree. These animals evolved into the largest land animals that have ever existed. They were living mountains, consuming tons of vegetation every day. To fuel their massive bodies, they evolved an avian-style respiratory system with air sacs that allowed them to process oxygen incredibly efficiently. This was not just heavy breathing. It was a turbocharged lung system that allowed them to grow to the size of a Boeing 737 while remaining active. But the giants were not alone. The predators also leveled up. The theropods, the meat-eating dinosaurs, grew larger and more sophisticated. The appearance of animals like Allosaurus signaled a new kind of hunting strategy. Allosaurus was not a solitary brute. It was an intelligent predator that likely hunted in packs or loose associations to bring down the massive sauropods. Picture a pride of lions, but scaled up to 18 feet in length, with serrated teeth and razor-sharp claws. The ecosystems of the Jurassic were dangerous, high-stakes arenas where life and death played out on a grand scale. It was also a time of diversity for the smaller dinosaurs. The forests were alive with the ancestors of stegosaurs and the early ornithischians. These were the pioneers of armor and display. Stegosaurus, with its row of kite-shaped plates and lethal tail spikes, was a common sight in the Jurassic floodplains. These plates were not just for protection. They were likely covered in skin and used for thermoregulation, warming up in the morning sun or cooling down in the heat of the day, or for bright, blood-pumping displays to attract mates. The Jurassic period established the dinosaur dynasties that would rule for millions of years. They proved that they were not just a flash in the pan. They were the apex ecosystem engineers, shaping the landscape with their migrations, their feeding, and their very presence. The world was now a dinosaur planet, a reality that would continue for another 80 million years. As the Jurassic faded into the Cretaceous, the world changed yet again. The continents drifted further apart, isolating populations and driving evolution into new, bizarre directions. The climate became warmer than ever before, pushing sea levels to highs that flooded much of the continents, creating vast inland seaways. This isolation and environmental shift led to an explosion of diversity, a peak period for dinosaur evolution that introduced us to the creatures we know and love today. In North America, we see the rise of the hadrosaurs, the duck-billed dinosaurs. These were the grazers of the Cretaceous, possibly the most successful herbivores of their time. Animals like Edmontosaurus roamed the coastal plains in herds numbering in the thousands. They were not simple grazers. They were sophisticated processors. They had complex dental batteries, hundreds of teeth stacked together like grinding mills, that could pulverize even the toughest vegetation. They were the prey of choice for the new kings of the north. Further south, in Gondwana, the giants took on a different shape. Here lived the titanosaurs, the last of the sauropods. Creatures like Argentinosaurus and Patagotitan pushed the limits of biomechanics. These were the heaviest animals to ever walk the earth, so heavy that the ground likely shook beneath them. But it wasn't just size, it was defense. In North America, the ankylosaurs were turning themselves into living tanks. Ankylosaurus was covered in thick, bony armor and possessed a tail club made of solid bone that could shatter the leg of a Tyrannosaurus. This period also saw the rise of the ceratopsians, the horned dinosaurs. Starting from small bipedal ancestors, they evolved into the massive Triceratops. This was an animal that looked like it was built for war, with a massive neck frill and 3 long horns. But recent evidence suggests they may have used these horns for intraspecific combat, fighting for mates or territory, just as modern deer or antelope use their antlers. The frills, often adorned with large blood vessels, might have been used for colorful displays, flushing with color to intimidate rivals or attract a partner. The Cretaceous was a world of extremes. It was a vibrant, noisy, colorful place. The plants were changing too, with the evolution of flowering plants, or angiosperms. This new food source drove the evolution of new herbivores, which in turn drove the evolution of larger, smarter predators. It was a complex, interconnected web of life, operating at a peak efficiency that had never been seen before. One of the most significant shifts in our understanding of dinosaurs in the last 20 years is the realization that they were not scaly reptiles in the traditional sense. They were, in many ways, more like birds. The connection between dinosaurs and birds is now undeniable, a link forged in the late Jurassic, but fully realized in the Cretaceous. We have found fossils in China that have revolutionized paleontology. In the Liaoning province, exquisite fossils have preserved the soft tissue that usually rots away. We can now see that many theropods, predators like Velociraptor and Eutyrannus, were covered in feathers. Eutyrannus, a cousin of the Tyrannosaurus, was a 27-foot-long predator covered in a coat of filamentous feathers. This wasn't for flight, it was for insulation and display. The discovery of these feathers has transformed our image of the Cretaceous. It wasn't a dry, scaly world, it was a world of plumage. The forests would have been alive with color, as dinosaurs used their feathers for camouflage, communication, and mating displays. Imagine a pack of Deinonychus, sleek, agile predators with wing-like arms covered in feathers hunting through the undergrowth. They looked less like movie monsters and more like terrifying ground-dwelling eagles. This brings us to the birds themselves. Birds are technically avian dinosaurs. They evolved from small, feathered theropods during the Jurassic, but by the Cretaceous, they had diversified. Some, like Hesperornis, were flightless divers that swam in the inland seas like penguins. Others, like Confuciusornis, were strong flyers that perched in the trees. They were the only lineage of dinosaurs that survived the extinction to come. But at the time, they were just one part of a vast family. The realization that birds are dinosaurs changes how we view the extinction event. It wasn't a total wipeout. It was a pruning of the family tree. The giant branches were cut off, but one small, resilient branch remained. This bird lineage represents the legacy of the dinosaurs, living among us today in every chirping sparrow and soaring eagle. As the Cretaceous period progressed, the planet reached a tipping point. The ecosystems were operating at their limit, supporting an incredible biomass of life. In the late Cretaceous, the final players took the stage. In North America, the western interior's seaway was splitting the continent in two. On the coastal plains, a familiar face appeared, the Tyrannosaurus rex. Tyrannosaurus rex is not just a dinosaur, it is a cultural icon. But it is also the pinnacle of predatory evolution. It grew to lengths of 40 feet and weighed up to 9 tons. Its skull was 5 feet long, housing teeth that were up to 12 inches long, including the root. These teeth were not designed for cutting, they were designed for crushing. T-Rex could bite through solid bone. It was the king of the tyrant lizards, and it ruled its world with absolute authority. But the world of T-Rex was not a solitary existence. It lived alongside a cast of thousands. The most common dinosaur in its environment was Triceratops. The relationship between predator and prey in the late Cretaceous was a violent dance. Fossil evidence shows T-Rex bite marks on Triceratops' frills, and healed wounds suggest that Triceratops could fight back and win. It was an ecosystem of high stakes, where only the strong survived to adulthood. However, while life on land was vibrant, the oceans were facing their own challenges. The seas were ruled by mosasaurs and plesiosaurs, but the diversity was beginning to wane. The climate was becoming unstable. The Earth was experiencing massive volcanic activity in the Deccan Traps of modern-day India. Over hundreds of thousands of years, these eruptions spewed enormous amounts of lava and poisonous gases into the atmosphere. This didn't happen overnight. It was a slow strangulation of the planet's biosphere. The sea levels began to drop, changing coastlines and destroying the shallow inland seas that supported so much life. The ecosystems were under stress. Food chains were becoming fragile. The dinosaurs were at their peak in terms of size and diversity, but the foundation of their world was beginning to crack. They were the masters of a planet that was slowly turning against them. The stage was set for a disaster that no amount of evolutionary adaptation could prevent. Before we move to the final chapter of this story, I want to pause and ask you something. We have seen how dinosaurs ruled for over 160 million years, evolving into countless forms. Do you think that if the asteroid had missed, dinosaurs would still be the dominant animals today? Or would mammals have eventually taken over? Let us know in the comments below with your thoughts. 66 million years ago, the inevitable happened. While the Deccan Traps volcanism had weakened the ecosystems, the final blow came from the sky. An asteroid, approximately 6 miles wide, slammed into the Earth near the Yucatan Peninsula. The impact released energy equivalent to 10 billion Hiroshima bombs. The sheer violence of the event is almost impossible to comprehend. In the microseconds following the impact, the air itself ignited. Forests thousands of miles away were set ablaze instantly. A massive tsunami, hundreds of feet high, swept across the Gulf of Mexico, carrying debris and marine life far inland. Dust, soot, and molten rock were blasted into the upper atmosphere, circling the globe. The rain of molten debris turned the sky into a broiler, igniting global wildfires. But the death blow was not the fire. It was the cold. The dust and aerosols blocked the sun for months, perhaps years. Photosynthesis shut down. The plants died. Without plants, the herbivores starved. Without herbivores, the predators starved. The food web, built on millions of years of stability, collapsed. The giants, with their massive calorie requirements, were the first to fall. The Tyrannosaurus, the Triceratops, the Titanosaurus, they vanished. The extinction event was non-selective in its cruelty, but selective in its survivors. The animals that survived had certain traits. They were small, they could hide, they could eat almost anything, and they could reproduce quickly. Among the survivors were the mammals, our ancestors, but also surviving were the birds, the avian dinosaurs. They had feathers for warmth, high metabolisms to stay active, and could fly to escape the fires and find pockets of food. It took hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of years for the Earth to recover. The scars of the impact are still visible in the rock layers, a thin line of clay rich in iridium, a metal rare on Earth but common in asteroids, marking the boundary between the age of reptiles and the age of mammals. The dominance of the non-avian dinosaurs was over, but their legacy was not lost. We live in a world defined by the absence of the giants. The silence of the Mesozoic is deafening when we visit the Badlands of Montana or the deserts of Argentina, where their bones lie exposed in the sun. The fall of the dinosaurs is often seen as a tragedy, a story of lost magnificence. But it is also a story of resilience. The dinosaurs did not disappear entirely. They survived in the form of birds. Today, there are over 10,000 species of avian dinosaurs, more than double the number of mammal species. When you see a hawk dive or a robin build a nest, you are watching dinosaurs in action. They are the heirs of Tyrannosaurus, the descendants of the creatures that ruled the planet. Their feathers are a direct link to the Cretaceous, their hollow bones a remnant of the Jurassic. The study of dinosaurs teaches us about the fragility of life on Earth. No matter how dominant, how powerful, or how adapted a species is, the environment is the ultimate arbiter of survival. The dinosaurs ruled for 160 million years, a span of time that makes human history seem like a blink of an eye. They were the most successful land animals the world has ever known. Their rise was slow and hard-fought, their fall sudden and catastrophic. Walking through a museum today, looking up at the mounted skeleton of a sauropod or the skull of a theropod, we should feel more than just awe. We should feel a sense of connection. The forces that drove their evolution, survival, competition, adaptation, are the same forces that drive life today. We are living in the aftermath of their world, a world shaped by their absence, but built on their foundations. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the rise and fall of the dinosaurs. It is a story that continues to evolve as we find new fossils and develop new technologies to look into the past. If you enjoyed this audiobook, please like and subscribe for more deep dives into history and science. And tell me, after hearing their full story, do you view birds differently now? Leave a comment below. Until next time, keep exploring.